it out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Welcome to the 590th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey, me. I'm going to start with a report of what happened to Tom Fennell. He has not even been on the phone with us for months. And I tried calling him every week at least and never got an answer. And I finally found out what had gone wrong. Now, I want to tell you, I was not afraid that something terrible had happened because I knew that Tom was checked every day by the Windham County Sheriff's Department. They do this as a service for people who are old. And by the way, Tom is 85 this week. So he's not a spring chicken. Neither am I, to tell you the truth. I found out, I was walking down Elliott Street and a person driving by stopped his car, rolled it down his window, called me and asked if I was George Harvey, and I said yes, and he said he was Tom Fennell's nephew. And he had been up in this area from New Jersey. There were two people in the car. One was from New Jersey, the other from New York. They were brothers, I believe. They were certainly both nephews of Tom's. And what they told me was that Tom had had an accident which put him in the hospital. And he had been in the hospital with therapy and other things for a couple of weeks. And from the hospital had not gone back to his old apartment, but had gone to an assisted living facility in Vernon. There are several of them there. So that being the case, you know, he's basically been retired from making a living for a long time. And he had said a few months ago that he wanted to return to the show, but you know, he was just getting old and feeling the biggest problem that he had with the show since the late days of COVID, because we used to do a show together with a plastic panel between us for COVID. And the thing that he said was that he was unable to keep track of time. Physically, he would fall asleep at different times, which also I think is just a matter of being old. So Tom is alive, he's well, he's happy in the assisted care facilities, according to his nephews. And I think, you know, certainly I wish him well. He's been on this show for over 10 years. From the start, in fact, until the last few months. Now, I'm going to say what I usually say, which is welcome to the 590th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey, me, absent Tom Fennell, unfortunately. We're starting on Thursday, September 5th, and we are ending the show with Wednesday, September 11th, today being September 12th. And these items of news come from my blog, geoharvey.com. If you get to this show using a computer, it may be that you've got the show's description easily available to you down on the screen someplace. And if you do, you can find there a link that will take you to file that I use, which includes just the items that I'm going through in the show and the photographs. So that is something you can do. And I'll just start. The first item is from Renew Economy. The title is Nuclear Won't Cut It. CCA says Australia must go all in on renewables to meet climate targets. Now, CCA is an organization for climate and consumers and, oh yes, it's the Climate Change Authority. Sorry. Australia will not reach net zero emissions by 2050 under the federal coalition's nuclear power plan, according to a comprehensive report that puts the shift to 100% renewables at the center of all plausible pathways to meet the global climate target. This is according to the Climate Change Authority, which actually is an authority in the government. The federal coalition is the opposition party coalition, which includes the conservatives and the nationalists, and they have been operating together for some time. But they're no longer in charge of things, and so they're trying to get back in an upcoming election. And one of the things they have been promising is nuclear power. And I can't think of anybody who is in a scientific acting in a scientific role or in a role that is centered on energy that really likes the idea of nuclear power. The problem is it takes a long time to build nuclear power plants, particularly if they can be slowed down by local opposition. And they cost about, I don't know, 4 times as much as a solar, wind, and battery operation that will get the same job done in terms of the amount of electricity that it produces. And I will argue that the quality of the electricity, contrary to what people might think, because the sun doesn't always shine, I'm so bored of this, and the wind doesn't always blow, and I feel like saying the sun doesn't always shine and the moon isn't always up, or something like that. But the fact is, we've got very cheap batteries these days, and they're getting cheaper fast. And the result of that is that it's going to be extremely difficult for nuclear power to compete in any way that makes sense by the time it gets online. So Bill Gates can put his money into it. I doubt that money is going to produce any good result for him. Okay, on to the next item, which comes from CNN. This is Lake Mornos. Let me get it up for you. The title of the article is Sunken Village Emerges in Greece as Drought Dries Up Lake. From beneath the shrinking Lake Mornos in central Greece, the muddied remains of homes are re-emerging nearly 45 years after the village that once stood there was covered with water. Drought brought the lake to its lowest level in decades. It supplies water to nearly half the Greek population. That picture is a picture of Lake Mornos, and I want to point out, if you look on the left side of the picture on that peninsula that is there, you can see that on the area that has no vegetation, there are buildings, and those buildings were there until this area was dammed and a lake was formed 45 years ago to provide water for many of the people in Greece. I don't know what's going to happen in the future with this, because they have a mess on their hands if they don't have water. Water is kind of important, and what they're going to do about it, I don't know. But they have to do something. Okay, next we have a picture of the M4 wave energy converter from the University of Western Australia. I want to point out there are 3 floats there, and above the kind of middle one is a hinge of sorts that will allow the one on the right to go up and down relative to the other 2. And what's actually happening is, because it can go up and down, the whole thing can be used to make electricity. The title of this is from the Daily Cargo News, and the title is Wave Energy Converter to be deployed off Albany. Albany, by the way, is a town in Western Australia. It is at the southernmost tip of Western Australia, or near it. And it has a population of about 35,000. The M4 converter, the focus of Western Australia research project, is designed to harness renewable energy from the ocean. The Albany M4 Wave Energy Demonstration Project will deploy the device in the waters of King George Sound to test the region's potential for wave energy. And wave energy is something that has been kind of tried for quite a long time. I haven't seen what I would regard as a mature product, but people are still trying to do it. Okay, we're up to Friday, September 6th, and we have a picture of a jack-up ship. And I want to talk about this for a moment. This is from Renews. The title is Consultancy Unveils Maintenance Jackup. Knud E. Hansen designed an offshore turbine maintenance platform. The vessel is designed for all kinds of maintenance work on machines up to 20 megawatts. Now, we talked about a 20 megawatt turbine last week for offshore, including replacement of nacelles weighing as much as 1,000 tons. That is TONNES, which is the metric ton. My recollection is that that's 20, no, I think that would be 2,200 pounds. At the hub height of 175 meters and managing blades up to 130 meters long. We talked about these things last week. Now, I want to point out what you're looking at here. This had me puzzled. I couldn't figure out how this jack-up ship had those 2 far jacks or towers in the water. And the fact is they aren't in the water. They're on the ship. They look like they're in the water because the lower part of them, which is, you can see the lower part just sticking up a little bit from the wind turbine blades. The lower part of them is darker, so it's not really easy to see, but you can see it very easily on the one that is most to the right. What happens is the jack-up ship jacks up like they normally do, and in this case, they have a second jack-up, patented as a matter of fact, which will take a platform way up in the air so that in this case, the nacelle, the turbine blade can be detached from the nacelle or can be put on the nacelle. The nacelle can be moved. There's a crane up there. This is a gigantic operation compared to earlier jack-up ships that were used to put up offshore wind turbines and things like that. And this will handle 20 megawatt or down to 2 megawatt. It's an interesting ship. I'm not sure that it is a ship, actually. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just a boat or a barge or something like that. And the size, the blade there is that blade is probably over 130 meters long. I'm sorry, I don't know what that nacelle size is, and I don't actually know that this is a 20 megawatt turbine that it's working on. So it might be well under 130 meters long, but the point is they're able to do this because of the design. They're way ahead. Okay, the next item that I have coming up, we have a picture of Phoenix, Arizona. Is that right? No, it's not right. Ah, here we go. We have a picture of sunset and an item from CNN. The title is, "The Planet Endures Its Hottest Summer on Record for the Second Year in a Row." Summer broke global heat records for the second straight year, putting 2024 firmly on track to be the hottest year since records began in 1940. According to data from Copernicus, Europe's climate change service, this summer surpassed the previous record by 0.03 degrees Celsius. I almost said centigrade, which it isn't anymore. Sorry, that's the picture, isn't it? Okay, it's not that much hotter. And if we had a change, you know, it could conceivably turn out to be a little bit cooler, because there's a little over a week of summer left. Summer, I should point out that what they're using here is probably the Weather Service's often. You just say summer is June, July, and August. So as of September 1st, they can talk about what summer was. And maybe that's what they're doing. The actual time of summer, which you look up in the Old Farmer's Almanac or something like that, summer begins at the summer solstice and ends at the autumnal equinox. And that's changes date from year to year, changes time. You wouldn't know how to predict those things unless you would know. I mean, it's one of those things. You don't know how to do it unless you know how to do it. But this summer was not better than last summer. And now we have the picture of Phoenix. Okay, this comes from ABC News. ABC in this case is American Broadcast Corporation. Title is Phoenix Set to Break Record for 110-degree days. Wow. Phoenix has surpassed 110 degrees Fahrenheit 55 times this summer, tying the record set just last year. Phoenix is expected to break that old-time record again, as temperatures are forecast to reach 114 degrees. I believe Phoenix has surpassed that record. Over the last 30 years, Phoenix has seen an average of just 21 days a year over 110 degrees. And now you know why I don't live in Phoenix, or one reason. I'd rather live in Vermont. I do have family in Phoenix. I should show you a picture of my great-grandsons who live there. I'm getting old, by the way. Turning 78 this month. Okay, we're up to Saturday, September 7th, and we have an item from Clean Technica. This is corn. The title is Farmland and Photovoltaics. It might not be what I expected. How many acres of land would be needed for enough solar PVs to provide the United States with all of its energy, including electricity, heat transportation, industry, and whatever else we use energy for. How many acres are being used for corn for ethanol? How do they compare? This is an article I know pretty well because I wrote it. Basically what happened here was I sat down just doing doodles on the back of an envelope, and I did a back of the envelope calculation of the amount of photovoltaics we would need to power the country with all of our energy. And I calculated that it would be nearly 30 million acres, which is about the size of West Virginia. Then I thought, 30 million acres, that figure reminds me of something. And it turned out that I had been hit with a bunch of different 30 million acre things, one of which was the amount of corn ethanol, land used for corn ethanol. And it turns out that corn ethanol actually uses more than that. It uses about 31 million acres. And what that means is that if we put in 30 million acres of photovoltaic panels and used that to provide all of our current need for energy, assuming that the need hadn't changed, if we did that, it would actually mean not that we decreased the amount of agricultural land for food, assuming that we put it all in on agricultural land without any other purpose that land is used for. It would actually increase the amount of agricultural land we had for producing food. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. So I wrote it up and I sent it to Mark Z. Jacobson, who is a professor at Stanford and well known to people who follow clean energy quite a lot. And he sent me an email back which said, yeah, that's what it is, except you didn't get your numbers quite right. It is more like 17 million acres or something like that we would need to provide ourselves with all of our energy. And of course, I'm not advocating providing ourselves with our energy by using farmland, because we've got lots of places to get energy from. We can get it from putting panels over parking lots. We can get it from putting panels over sidewalks. We can get it from the million or so acres of land that is flat because it's on the tops of mountains in the central Appalachians that have been removed for coal and now can't really be used for anything at all, because basically the leases for the mountaintops said you have to cover the mountain top with soil. And of course they put 3 inches of soil down and that gets blown away in the next wind. We've got lots and lots of places to get electricity without getting all of it from solar. And anyway, he said my numbers were not quite right, but my overall conclusion was. And I think he was kind of amused by it. He liked the article that I wrote in Clean Technica. Okay, the next item that we have is also from Clean Technica. It is, this is the Tesla Gigatrain, and if you look at the side of that, you can basically see that it is written Gigatrain on the side of the locomotive in almost indecipherable letters. The title is Tesla Gigatrain Begins Operations in Germany. The absolute best way to transport people from point A to point B at the lowest possible cost per mile is by train. Tesla recently started operating a battery-powered passenger and freight train from Erkner Station, southeast of Berlin, to the Tesla Gigafactory in Grünheide. I don't know that that's correct. It says Grünheide, but I'm inclined to think it's Grünheide. Nevertheless, this is 6 kilometers to the east. This train is not designed to go long distances, or not intended to go long distances. It only goes 6 kilometers each way, and that's a distance of 4 miles. But it is in operation, and it runs back and forth, and it carries passengers who are coming in so that they don't have to arrive at this huge plant. This is a huge plant. They don't have to arrive by car. So the plant doesn't have to have a huge parking lot. Instead, the parking lot is someplace else, and this train can bring in freight. So there you have that. Now, the next item that we have, this is kind of a nice picture. Still on Saturday, we have this from the Public's radio. Wind power activity in New Bedford. There it is. Massachusetts and Rhode Island to buy power from 3 new offshore wind farms. Massachusetts and Rhode Island officials announced that they plan to buy power from 3 new offshore wind farms, signaling that energy regulators in both states will consider the renewable energy source economically viable in New England. Offshore wind farm is not, offshore electricity from offshore wind farms is not cheap the way the electricity from onshore wind farms is. It costs a lot of more money to get the electricity from offshore wind farms. They are not as expensive as nuclear, and they go up very fast compared to nuclear, not really compared to onshore wind farms or solar. Nevertheless, they are cheaper than coal or natural gas or oil, and there it is. Okay. The next item is we have a picture of the Northern Territory. I chose this picture to give you a kind of a picture of what Northern Territory looks like. This is the Northern Territory of Australia, not some other Northern Territory. And it is the Northern Territory of Australia consists of a very large amount of desert. Its Northern Territory is, I'm going to say 80% as big as Alaska. But since it's in Australia, south of the equator, it's closer to the equator than half the land in Australia. This is from technoservice.net. And the title is, Australia launches construction of the world's largest solar power plant. Australia is set to build the world's largest solar farm. Sun Cable will have a capacity of 6 gigawatts, that's 6,000 megawatts, of which 4 gigawatts is to power 3 million Australian homes, while maintaining 2 gigawatts to be exported to Singapore on a 4,500 kilometer, about 2,796 miles, submarine cable. I'm gonna put that picture up. I didn't get it up for you. That is what Northern Territory, or at least part of it, looks like. Although, you know, when you're talking about something as large as the state of Alaska, or almost as large, you're talking about a fair amount of variation in the land. And this electric power is going to go through the city of Darwin, on its way to Singapore, and that means that the electricity generated out in the desert is going to go through an area where there is a lot of land that is not desert. It's tropical. Well, it's not actually tropical, but it's nearly tropical. It's very hot, and Darwin is the Northern Territory's capital. The only other city I can think of that it's in the Northern Territory is really kind of in the middle of it. I'm sorry, the middle of Australia, and that's Alice Springs, and which is, I've always been curious to visit Alice Springs, but I don't think I ever will. Okay, let's see, what have we got? Oh yes, our next item, let me put this up. There we go. This is a robotic submarine. The article comes from Clean Technica. The title is Scientists Search the Underside of Glaciers for Clues to Sea Level Rise. With knowledge about the undersides of glaciers at the ocean edge, scientists could predict how they interact with warmer ocean waters. That will give us better understanding of how much increase in sea levels we can expect and when, giving world cities time to prepare. Now, I think it was last week, might have been the week before, we had a story about how scientists had examined Thwaites Glacier, I think, and determined that it was not melting as fast as they had thought. It was because of this kind of submarine, this is a robotic submarine, that they were able to do that. These little submarine just went down. It was able to respond to commands on shipboard. No human being had to go with it. And it took a look at the underside of a glacier. So that's how that happened. Okay, the next item we've got is a picture of the line fire. Let me put this up. This is from CAL FIRE. And yes, there are cities in the background there. San Diego. This fire is close to San Diego, I think. Never can tell sometimes. Okay, this comes from ABC News, American Broadcast Company. The title is Wildfire Burning East of Los Angeles Forces Evacuation in California Town. Maybe that's Los Angeles in the background. Officials in San Bernardino County issued an evacuation order and declared a local emergency after a wildfire burning the hills east of the city grew to over 7,000 acres. Now, 7,000 acres is about 11 square miles. The line fire was 0% contained as of Saturday afternoon, roughly 2 days after it started. We will see more of this particular fire in the show here, and there's more to say about it. Okay, we're up to Monday, September 9th. We have a picture of offshore wind farm, and let's take a look at this. This item is from New Jersey Spotlight News. The title is New Life for Abandoned Offshore Wind Leases, ? Ørsted abandoned its plans for a massive wind farm off the New Jersey shore nearly a year ago. Now, industry analysts and others say that the offshore wind industry may be poised to buy up ocean leases that could generate enough power for 1 million New Jersey homes. So what happened here was that Ørsted found a year ago that it was not in a position to be able to make money on an offshore wind lease that it had purchased. What it is going to do now, I believe, is, and I believe they do too, they believe that this is what they're going to do, they're going to sell the lease that they bought from New Jersey and walk out of the whole thing. But that means somebody else has to buy that lease. And there are apparently organizations that are interested in buying it. So the wind farm that they had walked away from a year ago may still come into existence. It just won't be an Ørsted wind farm. Okay, we've got an item now from Common Dreams. Let me put that up. That's a picture of a guy jumping over the sun. Just imagine that. It makes you wonder how close to the ground the photographer he was. The photographer might have been lying down or standing in a hole or something. This is a picture that is called Dawn. At least I called it Dawn. The title is Solar Power versus the Darkness of Trump. To understand the stakes in this year's election and to understand the very exciting possibility for rapid progress in the climate fight, a new set of numbers is extremely useful. They come courtesy of Electric's Michael Lewis, reporting on Ken Bosong's analysis of the data on electric generation. This particular article is about Electric's Michael Lewis's article, but this article in Common Dreams was written by, now the name has just gone out of my head. Anyway, basically what's happened is that Ken Bosong reports every few weeks about how much electricity is generated from what source, what the change in capacity is. He's reporting on numbers that are just released regularly from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and from the Energy Information Administration. I'm trying to reproduce these names out of the initials of the organizations that produce them, which are the federal government, basically. And anybody could do this kind of reporting if you knew where to look and you were willing to go through the numbers. And I have done it myself from time to time, but Ken Bosong is a guy who really gets into it, and he produces the numbers, how much capacity of natural gas burning plants has come online in the last month, last 6 months or year, how much solar, how much wind power. And in the last year, I think it would be safe to say that nearly all of the electricity generating plants have been from renewable energy. In fact, the overwhelming majority of it, 90%, 95%, has been solar power or batteries. And the reason is because that's what the utilities are looking for. They want to have inexpensive electricity to sell to their customers. And they know that if you combine solar power with batteries, you can have electricity at a wholesale cost that is going to be under 4 cents per kilowatt hour, where the electricity from natural gas burning plant might be 7 cents per kilowatt hour. It's kind of hard to imagine solar power and natural gas being in a competition. And that 4 cents for solar power, by the way, includes the cost of a battery that will hold an enormous amount of electricity. And the result of that is you can, since this has got battery backup, it's actually more reliable in many cases than the natural gas burning power, and has significantly better characteristics. Okay, we are up to this, which is a picture of a Suzlon wind farm in India. And you'll notice that the masts of these wind turbines are lattice type. We used to use lattice type masts in the United States, but it turned out that that particular type of mast is very attractive to birds to build their nests in. And it is, the result of that is that these wind turbines with that kind of mast are, according to many people, just too likely to kill birds. All right, this article comes from BW Business World. The title is NTPC Green Energy and Suzlon Sign Deal for India's largest 1,166 megawatt wind power project. NTPC Green Energy partnered with Suzlon Group for India's largest wind energy order to date, totaling 1,166 megawatts. According to Suzlon, this project will have 370 turbines, each with a rated capacity of 3.15 megawatts in 3 sites in Gujarat. So basically what we're talking about here is just, you know, every day almost, maybe there's a day that it doesn't happen, but if that day comes up, it's rare. But it seems like every day there are multiple articles about renewable energy installations being installed in India. Now, India is not installing renewable energy as quickly as China is, but it is installing let me just say, when renewable energy is installed in India, they brag about it. When it's installed in China, very often it goes unnoticed. And that's just the way things are. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, September 10th. This is, I think, kind of a fun photograph. Let me get it up for you. This is from Echo Watch. And the title is Great Britain Generates Over 80% of Summer Electricity from Renewables. So let me read the synopsis. Great Britain had its greenest summer on record, with roughly a fifth of the electricity from non-renewable sources. Data commissioned by The Guardian shows. Data from Ember is an organization that keeps track of such things, shows fossil fuel use was just over 62% in 2014, but it fell to about 21% in August of 2024. Now, obviously it fell for the month of August, but all things considered, I think it might be that, sorry about that picture. It might be that, let me put that up again. All right, let's talk about the picture. What you're seeing here is wind turbine blades being unloaded from a ship. You can see on the left is a crane which will pick these things up and put them on trucks. I don't know how it says unloading, so I would assume that's what they're doing. It could be loading the blades from the truck onto the ship, but it says unloading. And I found that a kind of an interesting picture. Okay, next item. Now you have the piece of window glass. This is from Clean Technica. That is not just glass, ordinary glass. That is solar PV glass. It is actually a solar cell, if you will, or a part of a solar panel or something. The title of this article is See-Through Solar Windows Coming Soon to a Farm Near You. Some people object to solar PV, saying they don't look good. Research indicates that transparent see-through solar technology can use some of the sunlight while passing some. Solar cells can be the glass in a greenhouse. So a farmer's greenhouse can generate electricity. Now, it can generate electricity while it does the normal things that greenhouses do, which is to seal the area for air transfer, if that's what you want. Certainly at night, that may be important. But to have it additionally produce electricity, or to have a skyscraper produce electricity from the windows in it that face south, is something that is kind of exciting. Okay, I'm going to go on again. We have a picture here of solar panels on a rooftop. And by the way, that picture is from Puerto Rico. This article is from Clean Technica. U.S. solar power booms under Biden. A report published by the Solar Energy Industries Association and Wood Mackenzie highlights how efficient the Biden-Harris administration has been in advancing solar power in the United States, and especially solar panel production capacity. Solar module production capacity has risen above 31 gigawatts per year. I was actually very surprised when I read this, because I remember when Donald Trump said he was having a trade war with China. The reason for that was because 2 solar panel manufacturing plants in the United States had gone out of business in the face of competition from China, which was unfair, because the Chinese competition was being subsidized very heavily. So I looked into what other solar manufacturers there were in the United States and found that there were very few. The United States was not making much in the way of solar panels, and at that time, something like 95% of the solar panels made in the world were made in China. This was a situation that was duplicated in electric cars, electric buses for sure. And if you think that Tesla has got a big output of electric cars, yes, it does. And it has a gigafactory in China, which, by the way, produces cars with what I think are better batteries than the ones used in the United States. And Tesla does not produce as many electric cars as BYD, which is a Chinese company. The solar power boom, 31 gigawatts, is a fair amount, and they're still building more. And by the way, many of those factories are in places like North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee, Texas, and so forth. Okay, we are up to Wednesday, September 11th, and we have a picture of a Volkswagen ID.7. A Volkswagen earthquake hits Germany. That's the title. This article is from Clean Technica. Volkswagen Group recently announced that it might need to close 2 German factories. It has never done that before, at least not in recent times. It might also need to end the decades-old guaranteed employment policy it used to ensure workers that they would always have jobs in the Volkswagen family. some media called the news an earthquake. This is important. Volkswagen has been, in some respects, it's been on top of things, and in other respects, it's been absolutely flailing. Ever since people in the government of the United States found out that the company was cheating on diesel emissions by having software built into the cars that would tell the cars if they were being driven under conditions like those that happened when they were being tested. And then the emissions that produced would be shut off so that the car could be peppy on the road, which is not the way things are supposed to happen. Here, Volkswagen is in trouble because it's been putting its money in places that are not good. And of course, it had to pay out a lot of money on the scandal that came from that cheating scandal. Okay, we have a picture of the smoke from the line fire, which I was talking about earlier in today's show, and I said we were going to get back to it. Here we are. ABC News put out this story. National Guard deployed to help fight raging California fire threatening thousands of homes. 3 major wildfires are raging across Southern California, threatening thousands of homes as firefighters and the state National Guard were battling to bring the flames under control amid triple-digit heat wave, according to officials. And that is basically where you have it. These 3 fires, the line fire and the other 2 whose names I can't remember, but and I will have more about this, I think, in next week's show, because I think there was an article on this. There was an article on it in my blog today, but whether it made it into the show preparation, I don't remember. These fires in Southern California are just awful. And now what has happened here is that the National Guard has been called to fight them. Okay, we are arriving at our final article. This one is from Clean Technica. And the picture is a picture of a Ford F-150 Lightning hooked up to a house power system. The Ford F-150 Lightning, like some other vehicles, is capable of powering a house or providing power to the grid while it's plugged in like this, and that is useful. It's very useful to a house. This particular picture, as I recall, is from Texas. It's very useful to a house, but it is also very useful for the grid, because it means that if the grid needs electricity while that vehicle is plugged in, it can draw electricity from the vehicle, which gives the grid a battery that it can use that it didn't buy. But there has to be some kind of regulation of how that battery is going to be used so that the grid can make use of it. The title of this article is Ford EV owners can now get paid to support the Southern California grid. If you own or lease a Ford electric vehicle, you can now get paid to support the electricity grid in Southern California. And you don't need vehicle-to-grid technology. This is just in the Southern California Edison Utility District, and it is initially only an option for Ford electric vehicle owners. Now, Ford electric vehicles means Ford vehicles, which include the F-150 Lightning, like the one in the picture, but it also includes the Mustang EV, which is an interesting car, I think. So there you have it. The week's energy news. I have a last picture for you, which is the final title for the week, which is "Have a Fascinatingly Lovely Week." And there we go. I'm glad to say that I was able to give you an idea of what's going on with Tom. He is on the mend, as I understand it, and likes the place where he is. So, and you know, if he wants to come back to the show, he is welcome. It's not like I forced him to retire, but I wonder, you know, it's been a long time since he's come into the studio, and I wonder whether he really has it to work by phone. So I don't know how that's going to go, but we'll hope that it goes well. And so I say goodbye. Have a good week. Come back next time, and we'll enjoy some time together when that happens. Bye-bye.